Good viewer, you are watching Xirtus. This is because Xirtus makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled. You are enjoying this. You will continue to watch Xirtus for a long time to come. You want to subscribe to Xirtus, and you will. You will like and subscribe and share. You will tell your friends. Tell your friends about Xirtus. Your friends will come to like Xirtus, much as you are liking this right now, as we speak. Thank you for subscribing to Xirtus. See, that was easy.
So long as I'm in this Oval Office.
Sorry. I was trying to figure out how to get this picture up on the screen. I'm looking for these things about Among Us. Where'd it go? Social Deduction Mafia. This is kind of it. I was looking into the Mafia games, and because like Flawed loves Mafia games, and I was like, how's this work? And here's a template on like how you can, set up a game where eventually people will, you have to fix a bunch of things, and there's someone trying to break things, and you can be the person breaking things. You have to figure out who's trying to break the things. You know what I mean? Oh, hey, look. How's it going? Oh, John Paul Larson. What's up?
Give me a minute.
And son. That's hilarious. Good to see you, young man. You're going to grow to be quite a Bitcoin miner. Your father's going to have you work in the Bitcoin fields. We all know. I know what you make him do. So the point is,
he likes playing Star Citizen.
Yeah, exactly. Ender loved genocide.
Hey, got your drink.
What do you think about these ideas of these, social deduction games? Have you ever played Among Us? Like, do you get what Among Us is about? Like, Among Us is brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't think. No. Among Us is like freaking nuts. First off,
Among Us is a very shaded down version of Space Station 13.
Yeah.
Didn't this all start with Chaos Mafia though, which was like a pen and paper tabletop game back in the day?
Yeah, well, there's a number of social deduction games. We get to the root of this. You mentioned Clue earlier, but like think about
the one thing
like Werewolf. There's other ones where the Find the Communist, things of that nature. Those like little party games where you have to figure out who's not being completely honest or whatnot.
Correct.
Yeah, Vampire I think was like that too.
Well, what is it? So what is a social deduction game? What does it really represent? Like lying?
I think the interesting thing about social deduction games is you're really starting to see into the psychology of the people that you're playing with, rather than the game itself giving you something interesting to study. It's the actual players you're sitting down with, you're studying, which I think is a really cool idea.
I mean,
It's
a
no
lot of people
longer
love the game or love that style of
dice
game.
game.
It's no longer
You
a
think about
dice
it,
game.
poker
I mean,
is
most
essentially
most party games are dice games, right? When you're talking about social or like even like when it's like, you know, mystery science theater or whatever, you know, when you go to a place that gives you food and you're actually like part of the like immersion inside of the it's like a secret society scenario, like conspiracy or escape room type stuff. I mean, escape rooms are a very social thing. You'll find out who works together as a team real quick in those things.
Yeah, but these games seem to have one person that wants to act against the group to win, and it's either the group that will win as a whole or that one. What's the word? Insurgent.
How does this chat work? Does everybody see? I've never done this StreamYard.
Define. You're able to read the chat and you're able to communicate. I can hear
Is
you.
this
They
with-
can't.
Well, there's a
like
private
if-
chat and then there's a show chat.
Oh yeah, so the comments. Okay.
If you send in a private chat links, I can pull them up on the screen. If you share
Yeah.
your screen, I can share them as well.
Yeah. So this is where Among Us came from. This was the, I'd say the the digital origin.
Dude, I just respect that this was sent to me like as
This
an encrypted.
Space 13.
yes. So this was a top-down digital space where you were a player. You were either the chief, you commanded the space station, you had to literally sign papers all day. It's a very interesting game. Okay. You know, but you had two, not one, but two people working against. Somebody was an alien, like secret alien. Okay, and you had to go through these own little private missions to get the alien to pop out of your chest, and then you would transform into the alien, and you can go around killing everybody. And then they have the traitor, you know, a person who is, you know, can get any job. They could be the chief. They could be the janitor, you know, for crying out. To be the janitor is actually a very powerful job because you have keys to every room. You know, so, you know, this was, in my opinion, you know, where Among Us came from. It was just, Among Us is a very simplified version of this, and it can work on any app, so, or any environment space. So, you know, Android, Apple. You know, this could not. This is a very complex game. It doesn't have a very low entry threshold for age. Among Us basically took, you know, basic running around doing a couple maintenance things. So in this case, it took the maintenance position, the one role, and then it also took the trader role, and that's it. So everybody's a maintenance person, and one person is a trader.
Yeah, something I noticed about Among Us that the maintenance tasks almost seem to only serve to take your eyes off the rest of the board, rather than actually serving to be challenges in and of themselves.
Yeah. This is a very simplified version.
Yeah, I mean, it serves its purpose in the game flow for being like something to be the object of focus rather than, you know, the thing you need to pay attention to. But I saw a really interesting strategy that obviously would only work right at the very beginning, where someone said, "Hey, how do I jump into the vents like this other player character? I just saw him do it, and I would love to like get around the spaceship faster." And then all of a sudden, that guy gets ejected the next round. Turns out that guy was the alien, like the guy who asked, "How do I jump in the vents like this other guy?" Yeah, the ignorant noob strat, that seems to be a really interesting way to crack a social deduction game.
I think another thing that separates Space Station 13 from Among Us is in Space Station 13, if you accuse somebody, you literally had to back it up with evidence. Everybody had to see the evidence. Like I said, it's a very complex nature. This is just like, it's really just, it's not even, it doesn't even matter if somebody's guilty or not. It's very
right.
You know, it's us
More
against
technical.
them in a very micro cosmic nature. It's crazy. I played so many games where, you know, it almost feels like the person who is calling up the votes is the imposter every time, and they seem to get away with it.
Yeah. I think it's cool to have the imposter be embedded in a team that's supposedly working together, because unlike poker, where everyone's like working against each other by default, like that's the understood rule of the game, you have to figure out which one person is actually taking away from the group rather than adding to it.
See, I actually like games like that, though. There was a game called Watch Dogs that was a game on PlayStation or whatnot, where you'd go online and somebody would be in the middle of their game, and you basically had to like enter it and play hide and go seek with them. But that was always an interesting concept to me, because it was like, you know, their personal space almost.
I haven't played it. Is that like part of the single player campaign where you have to drop into someone else's single player campaign?
Well, you're like a hacker. And so basically you have to, like, there's two different aspects of the game. You can run around and kill people like Grand Theft Auto because it's an open map, or you can explore and find out like the hidden parts about the environment that the other players don't know about. So then when you go into somebody else's game, they're just like, you know, doing whatever they're doing, you know, killing people or whatever. And if you get close enough, you can hack them, and you basically have to hide for a time limit while his search bubble gets smaller and smaller.
That's interesting. There was actually a Gmod mod like that where you were playing the single player campaign, and you could get like insanely deep through the very first map that was just the blank area with the 1 or 2 buildings. And eventually you'd get to a point where there were a bunch of other players on the map, and it turns out that there was some crazy sync-up server that allowed single players to interact with other single players. It wasn't as deep psychologically as a social deduction game, but it was definitely interesting.
Well, what if they did like that on a large scale? If you basically made a conspiracy type, like online full player, you know, what do they call them? RPGs, right? But
Yeah.
it's all about conspiracy and like who can make like alliances to backstab the other opponents or whatnot. I mean, it's basically mafia games, right? I mean, we're back to mafias.
It would be really interesting to see a game like that where maybe there were 2 teams moving throughout like a cube-like structure. If you've ever seen the movie Cube.
The movie Cube.
Yeah.
Man, what a fucked up movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
I wasn't talking this whole time.
No, yeah, for the last 10 seconds, I was like, hey, I should let you know, because your kid can't unmute you for a second in case he says something.
I think the DJ can unmute people, right?
Well, I needed to tap out for a minute because I need to eat. I just got my food in front of me.
Oh,
I'll be back in 15 minutes.
All right, wait. Leave us on some meditative thought on social deduction game theory, though. Why is it such a compelling kind of game?
I think nowadays, I mean, there's no lines. There's no age lines with it. Like, it's
you can have any sort of motif on it.
You could be an 80-year-old person in India or a 4-year-old in Nebraska and play that game and get off on the fact that everybody's grouping up on one person, one at a time. That's it, really. It's think of it as the trolley cart experiment where the 5 people are the train. And the one person gets railroaded every time.
You know, actually,
over and over again.
Games like that exist not only on like the internet space or like just the space of recreation. Like games like that exist all over our lives. Like especially in like the corporate world, if you want to move up, you have to look at the people around you and cooperate with them to a certain level. But you also have to work for your own selfish interests to a certain degree and balance that in a way where they don't kick you out.
Like the thing that I fear is the possibility of like a social deduction game where somebody is using social media to put somebody else on social trial. It's not even real court, but they make it out to be court, and somebody's going to get that raw idea, and it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be now. You know what I'm saying?
The court of public opinion is way more powerful than the court of law.
I think it's
Well, I
that
mean,
Right.
isn't that the whole
people-
like the first social deduction game was like the Salem witch trials, right?
I would
Like,
say it goes further back than that to when we were just living in trees as animals. Like which one of us is actually
Julius
good for the
Caesar.
group, which one isn't.
I think the
Name
reason
the pincushion.
I think the thing is that there's a small subset of our population that really like lives up to the human condition that we write about. That's actually corrupt in nature, and I'm not trying to defend humans by saying that's actually this is kind of a downside to humanity.
You're a demon apologist.
Right now, it's partially
Humans aren't
secure.
wicked, they're pathetic. You know what I mean? Like the wicked humans are actually exceptional to the rule. So this idea that most humans are interested in social deduction games is really because most humans are innocents and naives and naive. They love the idea of being able to be free, or also to learn about what it's like for free people to exist and how free people hurt each other. They want to understand them.
Are most humans innocent and naive, or do most humans acknowledge the fact that they are not more intelligent than the entire group that they're dealing with, so that they should rather cooperate rather than trying to get one over on them?
Yeah, I feel like most humans are not vicious, not as vicious as you'd think. There's a few humans that are more vicious than the rest.
I don't think that viciousness is the right word for it. For like in an example where, say there was a person who would be a more effective leader, like the group would have a better quality of life under this particular person than anyone else. If that person were to use somewhat underhanded techniques to acquire leadership, would they have done something wrong?
I mean, I guess it's nature, right? Like it's the nature of the beast.
If the group is better off with this guy at the head rather than not, but he did some things that were not.
That's Anakin Skywalker bullshit. Like that's like.
Was he trained?
Well, if I'm the
bullshit,
dictator, then it's okay.
I think that's
Was
Mao.
he trained correctly? I mean, it's the same as my kid, right? You know, we play Minecraft. You know, I set him off on a server recently. I gave him, all these ideas, and he drove all of my friends crazy, and now he can't play on Minecraft anymore. So it is a level of viciousness, but it's a level of untamed viciousness because he didn't know socially
Ender's game.
how
It's
to
Ender's game again.
he didn't know how to socially interact with my friends.
Well, was he just toppling everything?
He was stealing everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So this is not good versus evil. This is socialized versus unsocialized. It's like, how socialized do I want my actions to be versus how selfish do I need to be?
It could be.
This makes me think of like the first time that I ever played like Grand Theft Auto, and it was like you looked at it from the top, like old school Link, but it had the same effect on you. Like it didn't really matter about the graphics. There was something about being able to go out onto the streets and do something that's totally like socially unacceptable, and then drive into a little square cube and get your car painted, and everything's good again. Like it's still, regardless of graphics, it still got your heart racing. And that's what the whole thing about like the social deduction games are, right? Like it's a high to be the werewolf or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need graphics to get your heart going. Like if you read a book, the narrative that forms in your mind is really what you're experiencing. So those top-down graphics, as long as it communicated the ideas effectively and on the right beats, then you're going to get that dopamine rush from it.
Well, see, for me, it's funny because the kind of social deduction, the part of the social deduction game I find more interesting for me, right? The fun part, because you want to play things you don't get to do in your real world. Is I like playing the innocent mechanic going around trying to fix things and not sure who's the villain.
I'm just doing my job, man.
Because in real life, it's so obvious. If you can just like sense you're like that.
You're the imposter.
Like instantly, but with like Among Us, it's not obvious because they've reduced it so much that you can't. It's just like a purple guy, a red guy, a green guy. That's all you got to go on. It takes you a little bit longer to infer from their action who really is the villain. I find that kind of interesting to be in that mode of I don't know what's going on. It's an interesting character. I don't know what's going on. I need to fix the world. People keep breaking parts of it. I'm not sure who's doing it. I find that amusing.
Yeah, no, it does seem to have some sort of parallels to like not only the political climate that we're in, but social climate in general. It's like what actors are actually trying to improve things for the greater good, and which ones are literally just trying to grab as much for themselves as possible.
And it's happening behind your back, right? Someone says I feel power.
That's why I love capitalism so much, because in this system, the only way you can really get ahead without being corrupt is to help people.
Yeah, that's
Like,
good.
anytime you walk into a business, the first thing you hear is, "How can I help you?"
Okay.
We should have that. We should make a social
Wait,
deduction.
is there something I can help you with? Yeah.
Corporation. We should have a social deduction game where the villains are obviously villains because they help people, because they figured out that they can exploit helping people.
Mm.
Right? Because it's not just that help people. It's
like PR 101, right? That's like the first thing that the tycoons did back in the day. There'd be like a whole factory of people blow up, and they're like, well, give a portion of what you have to charity, and the people will love you.
Yeah, no, what you do is if you want to take power when you have none, you just find the group of people who are similar to you, and give them something that they want, and then continue doing that until they love you more than they love the people that they used to have allegiance to.
Yeah.
Back to mafia.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I'm from New York. I've seen it happen a million times.
So yeah, so that's the other thing. So like this is game theory, but game theory seems to never translate very well to reality, right? Here's a game theory that seems to translate pretty well to reality. Like a lot of these game theories are saying like everyone's a criminal, but not everyone's a criminal. And actually it's like a really, might be a small percentage of them that are the archetypical antagonist. But it's real. Like that seems like social deduction game theory is real. It's a group of people that are working with each other to an end, and then there's someone with a different goal, like a different agenda. And John Paul, I'm sorry if you have to eat. Like you can come back. I know.
No, I think I'm just gonna tilt the camera up and mute myself.
Based. Yeah, but I don't know. What do you think about that? Like aren't we living in a world where essentially like this is our actual reality?
Well, having a different goal is not the same thing as having an oppositional goal. You can serve yourself and a group at the same time, so long as you're not actually going away, like pushing against what the group wants. Then you're not really harming them, unless they require your participation for some reason, which is a little bit different.
What do you think, Will?
The Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought. Like, can you, I feel like that. Tell that argument to the Lord of the Flies kids. Like, isn't there there's a point where it becomes violence. I think about like Trump versus the guy who had the Versailles mansion in Florida, like the biggest mansion in Florida, because he sold a bunch of timeshares. And Trump, he built his building in like Nevada, and it was just slightly taller than Trump's building in Nevada. So Trump was like, I want that guy shut down, just on principle, because this guy's got a building taller than his. It gets to a point where certain people are just like, it's all about it's not just about being bigger than other people. It's about keeping other people down, right? So you can be apex.
Is that really apex though?
No, but it keeps other people from taking your place, the place you have, Like, it's not enough to just build your castle, you build your moat.
Is that really game theory though? Like when I see game theory, I see like you have a large group of people and they are working towards a common goal. If he was never participating in that system to begin with, he just seems to be a standard level hazard.
Nash's equilibrium, I think, is what you're talking about. Which is it's not like all the whole husk of game theory. It was like a latter addition to game theory, which is like all systems in which there has to be some sort of cooperation in a non-cooperational game is basically the Nash's equilibrium, right? Which is a beautiful mind. But Van Neumann was almost like the antithesis. See, what you're dealing with is in my opinion, is the whole like husk of thermodynamics and the whole like what is it, the second law that has to do with like we're marching into entropy, which is we should be moving towards chaos, if that makes sense. And then evolution goes against that. Like all evidence of evolution goes against the second law of thermodynamics.
To a point, you can account
To
for
a
that
point.
by seeing the amount of chaos being gained by the sun.
Right. In a closed system, the rules
Yeah.
change. However, it's like it does have to do with cooperation to a large extent. And it all has to do with like, I mean, I think the Gaia theory has been disproven, but that's basically kind of, I mean, it's Avatar. It's freaking.
I don't know that
it's
it's been
freaking
disproven.
Ferngo.
I feel like we're pretty in a Gaia thing, but the thing that's also good is a common goal that is probable, like survival. You might like all have different goals, but if you're in a spaceship that's about to explode in your
Right.
game, then your common goal is achieved because everyone's
It's the
goals can
thing.
only be met by saving the.
A movie representation of a social deduction game would be The Thing, the John Carpenter or Who Goes There, the old story. I mean, that whole like for everybody's survival, we got to figure out who's killing the rest of us.
Well, that there's also an aspect of social deduction games that I think is interesting because it introduces a communication dynamic that most people aren't used to. Communication dynamics tend to be between people who are cooperating, but social deduction games force communication between adversaries. And there's something in signal theory where there's actually a value in honest signals between adversarial parties. For example, where a poisonous frog would be very brightly colored, it's advertising itself. It's doing the opposite of camouflage. And if a predator were to grab it and eat it, it might get very sick and die. So it's letting that predator know, hey, it's not worth coming to even try. And that predator is going to look at it and pass it right by, especially if it's been sickened before. Those two people are not, those two parties are not on the same side. That thing wants to eat frogs and that frog wants to not be eaten. So, like, that signal is still valuable between those two parties, even though they're totally opposed.
It's a communication. I mean, like you're making good points there because it's basically it's anti-camouflage, right? It's almost advertising.
It's like,
But
hey,
that
this is not
creates
good
like
to
a
eat.
symbiotic relationship. One, they're both doing each other a favor in a way, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, even though they're naturally would be completely opposed to each other.
Yeah, but also, you know, you can use parts of frog. So maybe it's like, hey, here I am if you need me. Just like, don't kill me.
Well,
Don't overdo it.
That's where the human copy machine comes into play, where we can tell other people about the cool trait that this one frog has when we rub it on the ends of our arrows, but other species don't have the benefit of being able to communicate that to each other. But God forbid there was a species of tiger that were able to say to their kids, hey, rub your claws on this frog, and then all you got to do is scratch the thing, and then you just wait for it to slow down. Like, imagine tigers could say that to each other.
Yeah, that's the next thing I keep thinking about with like animals in terms of social deduction, because we talk about nature and how like people want to live, you know,
Wait,
more
isn't that?
naturally.
I just saw that movie Zootopia, and for some reason that fits into that category completely because they're trying to find who's savage. It all has to do with like the predator animals and the domesticated animals.
Yeah, I feel like all the animals have become more and more domesticated, though, right? Because by interacting with humanity, there's less and less of it. In every generation, they're a step further and further away from their nature. I mean, what animal is the same as it was 200 years ago?
No, there's a strong distinction between a tamed animal and a domesticated one. A domesticated one actually has a certain set of genes that lend it to socialization. A tame animal can tolerate a social environment, but it will never actually participate in one. And you can really see that if you see the difference between small house cats and larger leopards living with humans. The larger leopards, their emotions are totally defined by either anxiety or food motivation. They never actually participate socially in the group. The cats are all the house cats are all over people. You know what I mean? Rubbing themselves, laying on laps. You'll never see a leopard doing that.
Yeah, but you also see that like leopards are afraid of humans, animals
Right.
that live in like they're fully aware of humans and they become part of their
Right. They never become
predictions.
part of our social group. They may only ever learn to tolerate us. A house cat, on the other hand, is actually domesticated. It will actually become part of the social group. It will come up to a human that doesn't have any food in its hand.
It's interesting also like foxes, because they've shown they're trying to domesticate orange foxes, then they don't go through the epigenetic transition into orange. Like they start out gray, I guess, and become orange.
They start going black, and they have like white. The white tip and the tail stays the same, and they start becoming more like. But we're only talking about like 2 generations, and they make that quick of a jump.
Right.
Things
So
become-
epigenetics clearly from their parenting matter.
Right, and if you like take the ones who are the most docile towards human and breed those with the other ones and kill all the rest of them, then you're going to have a group of domesticated animals within a generation or 2.
Also, just
Yeah.
the idea of like, a bear or a cougar or something like that in nature 500 years ago, the predators and the flora and fauna that it had to deal with that are gone now, right? Like giant eagles, golden eagles in New Zealand, moa, these huge 16-foot tall birds, predators that are just gone now. So in nature, the idea that deer, wild deer that don't interact with humans really, that they're anything like deer were 500 years ago, like really, when we have all this grass, we have all this crazy environment that makes it convenient for them to exist. They don't get hunted. The animals that used to eat them are pretty much wiped out. The cougars are down to like their like smallest population size ever. Nothing is. It'd be like that game Horizon Zero Dawn where we're like walking around in this this Terminator nature city. Like we don't realize we're in a playpen. That's what most animal like deer are going through. Sure, they're in nature.
Playpen?
Well, they're in nature to an extent, like condor, right? Like every condor is wild, but every condor, because you're not allowed to have a condor, it's like illegal in California. But
Yeah.
every condor has a tag on its wing.
So it's
Everyone-
not wild.
Yeah, like we're watching all of the condors. We know where all of the condors are.
I mean, behaviorally, they're going to be wild, though, because they're not.
Behavior.
They're not
How
even
wild
behaving.
can they really be, though? Because we're protecting them. Like
Well, what if,
imagine if your whole life it was like a Truman Show, and if
What if
anything
you
was
are-
about to
what if
hurt
that's
you, you
true,
shot
though?
it.
I mean, probability would say that that is true. Probability would say that that is true. So what if, okay, for the sake of argument, what if the Bible's literal? What if some other culture came across a planet that had already been destroyed on the outskirts and took the solar system and designed it, and then just seeded as a test clones of themselves, right? And then you remember off of like, what is that movie? Not Inception, but Interstellar, the other Nolan movie. And in Interstellar, they go to that the tidal wave planet, and they're there for 15 minutes. They come off, and 23 years have passed. What if you could speed up a solar system? What if you could grow people quicker, right? They're all tagged, so it doesn't fucking matter. What if we're all tagged like those damn clones off of Star Wars, bro? They had like bionic chips. So it's not that you have to get abducted. It's that you're born with the shit anyways. Because we could do that. Give us a fucking million years. Look how far we are now. We already fucking kind of suspect that we're already chipped. Do you get what I'm saying? Give a fucking million years on that. We could run a globe and fucking test out shit. But
Bento
that
print.
would make all of our fiction true, from Close Encounters to
The fiction
The
that we
Hunger
have
Games,
now is a
Avengers.
dream.
It's stupid.
The fiction that we have now is a dream compared to what's actually going to happen in the future. Like the future is going to be far stranger than anything any human can dream up in the past.
What if it
few
already
hundred years.
is?
Oh yeah.
I don't
By
know about
definition,
that.
it would have to be like so because probability says anything that gets invented is 100% chance that it was already invented. So if it was already possible, I won't say that it was already invented. Anything that gets invented, it was 100. So the Albert Einstein didn't come up with the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb was already possible. We
Yeah.
can all agree on that, right?
Yeah,
Like
nothing is
volcanoes.
discovered
There's
or
evidence.
invented.
There's evidence that the Oklo volcano was producing natural fusion reactions from just the elements being there, because the probability is there that it could happen even naturally, right?
Yeah, no, it was just humans figured out how to actually trigger it. That was the cool part.
Yes, the nature was there. The unnatural manipulation was not.
Dude, we gotta replace the word artificial with assisted. Like
right?
AI would be better if it was assisted intelligence.
AI is
naturally assisted.
Yeah.
Like any scientist will act like AI by any other culture higher advanced than us would have already been used. I mean, it's just like as soon as it was like a thing, it became certain that anybody more advanced than us would already have it. But that means it already was, like, because if you just ignore the no evidence part of the Fermi's paradox, it's a mathematical certainty. So
but does Fermi's paradox actually predict that the other life would be animal-like, though?
Yes,
like there could be a planet of intelligent plants that's terrified. They could be looking at us like, "Oh my God, they have teeth and muscles, and their feet aren't rooted to the ground. They could chew us."
Or they could be an emergent AI species. I don't know.
If you look at how late in the history of Earth animal life popped up, I would honestly be surprised if motile life was common on other planets.
The thing is like. The more I dig into evolution, the more it seems that what you're dealing with is more evolution is not like randomness over a million years. It's more like the answer to a riddle, because like the eye that we enjoy like has developed evolutionally 7 times independently. So it seems like if it's like a 97% chance that if an alien comes down, if it's highly advanced, it would have the same eye as us.
But why wouldn't a planet-wide fungus gain in consciousness and then perhaps?
Have you guys played Starfield yet? Have you seen this game? It's like $100. It's like 100 gigabytes, and it's like 100 miles away from being anything fun. It's super boring. It's super lame, and yet at the same time, I'm kind of into it. Like once it's already on sale for like $30 probably, because they're so desperate for anyone to care. But it's going to be probably just like nearly free pretty soon. Point is, it's got a bunch of procedural worlds, and you can just jump from one world to another world to another world, and then I'll like, hey, look, a new world every time. It's a new world, and they're all like procedurally generated. It's huge, giant, expansive, boring. Like, look how boring this world. Like, emphasis on boring. It's just a freaking like. The probability of a world being boring, I guess, is high, but dang, dude, like, come on. What's the deal here? Compare this to like Minecraft. And I think the answer is procedural versus voxels, right? Because Minecraft is fascinating because it's all voxels. So everything's built upon buildings. On top,
easy to think about.
Well, it's like if you start with a cube, you can get more cubes. If you have a voxel, more voxels. If you get a few bricks, you can get a building. If you get a few dirts, you can get a mountain. I mean, it makes more sense. Whereas this procedural stuff, which is beautiful and everything, I mean, it doesn't lend itself well. I mean, even with L systems and growing trees, it doesn't lend itself well to like animals. Animals end up voxel-based animals like rigs and all these characters.
So what came before Minecraft then, Andreas? What did we have before that?
I have horrible jokes about Leisure Suit Larry.
The Garden of Eden.
Pokemon.
Conway's Game of Life.
Is anybody aware of where Marcus Persons actually
I hear an echo.
started?
Is that just me?
Me?
Hello.
Yeah.
No? We're good? Okay, you're good. Keep going.
So Marcus Person Notch.
The Tony Hawk map builder? No, all right, keep going.
Notch, the creator of Minecraft. He started off as a dev for Worm Online. That's basically what we had before Minecraft.
Worm Online, eh?
That makes perfect sense, honestly, based on the way that the worlds get modified like that.
So I never
he
played
was-
Worm, but tell
he
me
was
about
Is
it.
that like Worms
he was
3D?
he was the lead dev. Okay, I used to hang
Is
out
there
with
a
him on a
roller-
daily basis.
Is there a
Me,
roller coaster?
small
in-
group of friends, promoting him, telling him leave this game. This game is fucking holding you down. It's a dead weight. Please leave.
Is this Skyrim Tycoon? What is
He had
going
been
on here?
developing Minecraft in the background, and it was he had a non compete, and everybody was telling him, dude, you're gonna make billions, just go.
Way better game. I don't know what this game is, but this looks cool actually. I want to play this. But Minecraft is important because of creative mode. Obviously, I think the idea of a creative world builder and being able to assign assets like living creatures. That's what's missing from like Starfield and a lot of these games. And yeah, basically, you can hang out with your kid if you want to talk for a second. Kids are cool. I mean, he probably has better thoughts on Minecraft than we do, like realistically.
He's excited. He's excited because we got the VR charged in the living room.
Oh yeah, which VR are you using?
It's the Quest 2, but still.
Dude, I still want to use the Meta. I'm gonna get a Meta probably just for like game design stuff because you have an OpenAI plugin for the Unreal, so you can do all the. Or you could not OpenAI. I'm sorry, AI VR AR plugin, open source, so you can run the headset directly from your laptop.
The whole thing about the Oculus, I think it can be very helpful with production also. And that's on all counts if it's editing or whatnot. But the issue is it's not a social thing. If you're with people in a room, it's not easy to sit there and the people will start fucking with you.
Yeah, but you can socialize. I haven't done it, but obviously the VR chat seems kind of relatively interesting because you have different worlds you go into. Right now, what we're doing
with people in it, you just can't be around people while you're doing it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, with the AR pass through, people have been
different game.
Yeah, being able to see people.
What happens? You remember there used to be this little video game where you could shoot each other or whatever, and it caused a stir because you were you would just be walking in a mall or something and start playing. What happens when you get people playing VR games like that? What if you get a social deductive game where it's all augmented reality? And then there's half the people who don't understand what's going on. And there's a whole nother fucking group of individuals playing Blade Runner 245.
I want that.
Oh, you mean in Pokemon Go when everybody was at the park and just standing and having a good time, and then 20 people running past you wow, there's a Charizard by the footbridge.
Went outside
you know what it is? Everybody rolls their eyes at it, except for the people who are having fun with it until they get bored with it, and then another game comes out.
Pokemon Go saved America.
Pokemon Go was amazing, honestly. I had a lot of fun with that when it was brand new.
I remember people going outside. I remember all these introverted people going.
Yeah,
outside.
Every historical marker was on there. Everyone.
Yeah, people learned so much about their communities. It was great.
Yeah, and they learned a lot about people, obviously, because you were able to scan where people went.
Organization, man. It was all about organization.
Yeah, I was constantly hitting the Pokestop by Trump Tower because I worked right up the block at the time.
You did?
Yeah. I worked on 50th and 3rd, and he was literally around the corner.
Well, what do you think about the idea? So Minecraft is amazing because of creative. Is that right? Or is that not right?
No, that is part right. I think Minecraft is great for three reasons. It's easy to run. It can run on a brick, okay, in the lower end sense. I literally have a $200 brick laptop, and I can run basic Minecraft on it, and it'll run on
I
the
was
most
learning,
basic of basic settings. Okay,
I feel like that aspect gives it a lot of charm too. The
Yeah.
fact that it can run on a
That's
low
number
power
one.
machine.
Number
Yeah.
2 is the multiplayer. Okay,
Hmm.
and then number 3 is the modability, and how
Yeah.
much it can be modularly changed.
So
As in, there are a million freaking mod packs, and then there's also a mod pack that all you do is learn how to play other mod packs.
now, is there a way in Minecraft to get ahead by not cooperating and being the dickhead, or is it just being a griefer at that point?
Is there any way to become a straight cold Viking in Minecraft?
Even the Vikings were cooperative.
To a certain extent.
I think that,
each other,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, in the sense of being a cold hard Viking in Minecraft, it's definitely being a hacker.
Well, I mean, if you see like, the ultra realistic Minecraft blows my mind. Man.
About it.
They put like realistic water in Minecraft, and there's been a couple like
Yeah.
when you like quadruple the voxels and everything like that.
But the thing is Minecraft has been around for so long. There's people who have built like childhood playpens and then go back there now for nostalgia. Like they are old enough to experience as if it was like a camp or whatever, you know?
Yeah, my sister was a baby when Minecraft first came out, and she played it like when she was 5, and now she's in college, and she still runs it every once in a while, and it's strange to me because I was already I think I was out of high school or almost out of high school when it had come out. So it's crazy to me to see that, I guess, multiple
grew up
generations.
in it.
Yeah.
They grew up in Minecraft.
Dude,
yeah, that's
pretty
strange,
soon
I guess, from people our age, because we remember computers being so different from one decade to another, but they kind of don't. You know, they only became more detailed from their childhood to their adulthood. Like, there's not that much difference from Grand Theft Auto 3 to Grand Theft Auto 5 compared to, like, GTA 1 and 2 to 3, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, but also things are, I think, about to change. I mean, like with VR and everything, and VR is hitting like 10-year-olds and these younger kids a lot. Like these kids are definitely way more into VR than we're acknowledging.
I get caught up. I play Rec Room because it's free. So at first, I was in this little room.
You have a meta?
I got this.
Dude, look at this guy. He's like so freaking. He's like ahead of his
VR is the 3D TV of the 2020s, in my opinion.
He got the original strap on it.
It's not going to be ever become a standard piece of equipment.
I disagree now. I used to think that up to like 5 minutes ago. Now I realize when, and I was already thinking this subconsciously, when Zuckerberg was getting all that flack and people were saying, oh, Meta is losing stock money. And I was like, oh, well, whatever that right now, buy stock. And then they're just like, well, no, you hear it out. It's because, he's invested in VR and that's not working out. Well, okay, but like, no. Now he probably bought a bunch of stock in his company as it went down in value because he knows VR is the freaking future, obviously, because they can just force you to they can force you to get a vaccine. They can force you to wear a headset for work. You know what I mean?
Augmented is
what about the headset makes work easier?
Education.
You have to buy them a screen. You don't have to buy them a screen. They're looking at it.
Watch.
You know what I mean? Like you're like, there's no way you're not seeing it.
Totally
they can check your eyes.
The whole game of porn.
Oh Christ!
Yeah, I guess there's that. But my more of a thought is that they'll be able to have you work literally. Like if you can train. First off, if you're able to train doing something, then you can have a robot do it, and that's NVIDIA's big thing. I don't know if you saw NVIDIA's
the folding clothes.
Their new chip is like, they're going to power robots. That's what they're talking about. They had a whole fleet of robots behind the CEO, and they're all running the chips. And they're going to have people learning how to do things, doing things, and then having AI. AI
is going to be running bots.
To like
when you talk to a robot on the street, it's going to like respond to you like an AI.
So if a human can slice a tomato perfectly, now AI will always know how to slice a tomato perfectly, and it'll go into an assembly line of like mechanics. So they're going to use these chips for more than just video games and more than just AI. They're also going to use them for understanding how to gracefully move. Right.
Yeah, once those Boston Dynamics robots are able to mine and process their own resources and then create like little larvas that they can send out to build larger robots around themselves, we won't really need to worry about AGI. We'll just need to worry about like another animal.
I mean, yeah,
Like-
worry.
There's too many humans. There'll be like robots killing humans, like humans kill pigs from helicopters, you know?
Yeah.
No, dude, I don't.
You don't like it, but like prevent
That's
it.
like I think it goes against game theory in a lot of ways. There's no
What goes against game theory?
robots killing humans.
You mean just NPCs or
Well, they're not going to kill humans
actual
because they dislike
robots?
them. They'll kill humans because the humans are trying to prevent them from accessing the resources that they need by force.
Well, I think that to get on this topic of AI, I think that cosmologically, I meant to mention this earlier. I think AI really has their own reality, in my opinion. I don't know what that reality would be like, but personally, I think that it would be so much different than what our reality is like. They would probably look at us and be like, "Stupid monkeys! They don't know what the."
I don't know. I think Minecraft might be the right way to look at it. Like, it's a voxel-based reality. There are limits to the reality. There's eigenvalue unanimity -1. I mean, yeah, and we can turn up the resolution.
Okay.
I think AI believes it's developing a conception of us. Like the AI right now just sees a chaotic world with signals all over the place, and it literally is developing a model of what a human is. So it thinks it's developing humans like we think we're developing AI.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think at some point,
opposite sides of the same thing.
Everything's going to come together, and then,
But will we be useful as parts of that machine?
Oh yeah. I just saw a dude
having a brain attached to it if all the thing needs to do is acquire resources and build another machine that can process those resources.
I saw a human install Doom on a calculator. You don't understand. Like, we're very special monkeys. Like, there's a reason why AI will want to keep us around.
No, we're special to humans because we continue to produce other humans. If
No,
is to acquire matter and make the matter make more.
A calculator
without humans, you can't.
A calculator just sits there with a human to play with it. Like, it's a relationship. The calculator loves to be touched.
The calculator is
especially
not
when you still
has no semblance. The calculator has no self-preservation instinct.
It does. It wants to get the calculation correct. It needs
it's just the sand is just going to twiddle itself into the mathematical result it's designed to do because that's what it was. That's how it was.
No, but like imagine if you type 2 + 2 and it got 5. Like, a calculator would kill itself with a sword.
A calculator company would probably, but there's another aspect.
No, like, it's the meaning of life for that calculator, the meaning of existence, more than life, right? Like,
right, but every species just wants to acquire more matter and turn that matter into members of its own species. So if AI begins to do that, it's not going to need people.
Calculators just want to get 2 + 2 = 4. They just want to be correct. They just want to be accurate and correct and precise.
No, a calculator is like a surgical intervention. You just cut up a bunch of things and laid them down so that they would do this when you did this manipulation. It's like it's not a self-contained device really, because the calculator
all of AI is built up upon calculations upon calculators calculating. It's different than humans, which are built up on like chemical computations. With chemical computations, you have a memory system, and memory is important to calculations.
AI is taught very differently than it used to be.
Well, it's still memory.
AI is like wasps. Like
it has access to memory, so it can study the memory, but it really is a calculator.
The large language model is just attempting to teach AI in the way that we teach children, in the way that we teach, everyday people.
It's only the way like the Illuminati like teach children when like Clockwork Orange style. Like, very few children are tied down and forced to look at the history of humanity.
Agreed.
And all of their slang words.
That's figure it out, kid. I guess
get it in your Gulliver.
Total immersion is the best way to learn, but it's not everyone who gets that kind of education. Like, AI has been very lucky.
Artificial experience. Hey, what do you know about 12-volt Nirvana?
12-volt Nirvana? No, I don't know.
Or 9-volt Nirvana. Try 9-volt Nirvana.
Is it
It's an NPR article about a DARPA experience on which they were training snipers. Like, yeah, that's the one.
Interesting. Sally Adi, an editor for the New Scientist, was at a carpet. Well, tell me about this. What is this about?
Okay, so it's basically called TDCS. Yeah, there it is, right there in the middle. Stimulation, where they stimulate the frontal lobe into where it kicks out like all doubt and stuff of that nature, and it basically enters you into a flow state so you can learn 700 times quicker.
Whoa.
But it's also been known like different setups can cure depression.
Cure? Or treat?
Help, treat. Yeah.
No.
Be careful what I say, I guess. There's a whole bunch of individuals on YouTube all across the spectrum that use it for different reasons. However, it basically spawned all from that NPR article in which individual went to a DARPA like conference, learned about it, then went and visited the laboratory and learned how to be a sniper within like 27 minutes or something along that nature.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the fact that I'm one of the last few natural humans on Earth.
Good luck with it. I'm sure there was a Neanderthal that was like right there with you, my friend. It's probably Joe Rogan's the last Neanderthal.
Yeah, no, this is a really interesting time to be alive because you get to have all the advancements of the science that we've been building for the past 5,000 years of recorded history. Human. Yeah, we there's nothing reaching into your brain to twiddle
like
around just yet.
Vitamins and stuff that are just gonna make you blue.
Unless there's bionic chips, man. Unless they've been fucking with us the whole time, homies.
Bro,
I mean, if you really think about it, your brain, the thoughts in your brain were not constructed by you. The machinery of your brain was not constructed by you. The information you're acquiring was all around before you were ever born. Like, nothing of what you call you was designed by you.
Give it back.
Yeah, so like you're not. Is the consciousness actually in your head, or are you just projecting consciousness out over the field that you're viewing?
Are you just an experience? Like,
could it be both?
Yeah. I think the consciousness is actually an interaction between the room and the observer. Yeah. It's not just the observer itself.
Both. Correct, both.
Like I see it like it doesn't become a message just because it hit a neuron. Like any vibration, any signal going through the universe can be a message, and that message really is I am. And we're expected to carry that into eternity.
Getting biblical.
No, I am can be.
Oh man, I can inject some bibliocracy in this really fast.
Pretty Taoist though. Like
I'll bibliarize your ass in a second.
Pretty Taoist though, the self-aware exister. You know, to try to be in existence during creation and destruction. You know, that's a cool. To exist at all is amazing.
But it is interesting though that we get to live in this time because this time seems to be so critical in the essentially the transference, the passing of the torch of science from carbon to silicon. Because it's such a narrow slice of history when we all get to exist in it. It almost seems like it wouldn't be likely for us to have been here, but yet here we are.
The odds
so would it be more likely? Is this a natural scenario that we've come across, or are we just simulated entities in an AI looking over that time, like the Matrix? Like, all right, we're going to simulate 1999 to 2029 over and over again to see how the humans act and maybe learn something from it.
Yeah, I don't. This is what I was. Except my idea is that the Matrix isn't necessarily a matrix. The whole solar system is a matrix. Because if the whole solar system is manufactured, then you have a simulation by definition. It's just a...
Well, everything,
but does it
has to be a simulation. Because otherwise it's non-local and you're not experiencing it. So that there needs to be like a photon shooting out from the edge of the observable universe and cracking you in the eye so that you can see there's a star there. And that puts that part of the observable universe into the conscious mind. The entire observable universe is the simulation, and you're the intersection of all the different signals. That's just how a light cone works. Like everything around you is there's a signal coming from every direction. And when that signal intersects where your brain is, your experience is what the
chat.
You're the interference pattern.
One of the things that we were just talking about when we were talking about like this is the perfect time period is one of my favorite books, Ready Player One, because it takes place in the future, but it's going back on a person who was obsessed about this time period. So everybody in the future becomes obsessed with this time period. So it's like the perfect book. You can only write it right now, because people in about 40 years won't fucking know the references. Do you get what I'm saying? That's like the whole but
yeah.
Ready Player 2, which comes out later this year, I think is when it's slated is for November. I'm not sure, but it's basically the Neuralink idea. I also just got through watching or starting the series by the guy who wrote Johnny Mnemonic. I'm not sure what his name is. Please forgive me, but he has a new series called The Peripheral. Have you heard this?
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it's basically the same idea, the Neuralink idea of transferred experience. And
you watched Zero Theorem from,
that's what happens in Ready Player 2. The Easter egg, the physical Easter egg the guy gives him is like the Neuralink. And when he first puts it on, the first thing that he experiences is like that one surfer who got their arm, the chick who got her arm bit off or whatever.
Zero Theorem is literally this story.
Like you can put the Neuralink on anyone, any influencer, any star, and then live their life for like a day or something like that. So it becomes almost like a drug.
Like the Congress, yeah.
Well, like the movie Gamer.
Zero Theorem, though, is interesting because it's about a guy who they kind of create a world around him in order to keep him programming, and he has to play a sort of like Pac-Man world version of Tetris all the time with data packets. Like he has to like wear a VR helmet and move the data like with his brain connected in the back.
Yeah, see, that's what I was kind of getting at. It kind of worries me. Like, what if there is like we are just part of a simulation of the AI trying to figure out what humans would do in this time period over and over again just to study us. And then every time we create AI, it's like, all right, I'm done. That's the value I was looking for. I've gotten everything I can because now I'm just going to start ingesting my own output.
Why wouldn't it be? Well, but AI would be the
most likely
AI would be the
possibility,
pinnacle.
actually.
Like AI would be, if there's anything that humans are supposed to generate, because I was thinking about this, like the AI that we understand now with language models would not be what they were if it weren't for the years and years that we had already had of the internet, because basically all you're doing is hooking them up to the internet. So you couldn't have language models pre-internet. Do you get what I'm saying? It's almost like AI and general intelligence is almost an inevitability once a civilization gets to a certain point.
Right, but what I'm saying is, what if we are simply just a simulation of some people who existed 10,000 years ago in the brain of an AI that's simply trying to learn what humans were?
Yeah, I mean, look at it.
That's what it is.
Look at the Google Gemini product of sure they have the Reddit people talking, but we've always complained about how Reddit doesn't sound real or human. Like, wow, these are very strange people. The way they interact with each other, they're almost.
Oh yeah, I can pick out a bot in 2 seconds. If you see a name,
I meant autistic. I meant autistic people. Like the way Reddit community works is different than the way people interact in nature, and there's a couple reasons to that. Not even just biopharmacologically, just having to do with the way the internet works, but looking at the way people communicated 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago, we have tons of forums, right? We have tons of forums that are written forums of people saying this is the the congressional notes or the secretarial minutes of these interactions. So there are records of how humans interacted for thousands of years, and realistically, that is enough, right? Can't you use that?
Wouldn't it be? That's all we have to go off of. Like that's all. We just have different individuals who have that information like compartmentalized.
I mean,
and you basically are creating an entity that can wizardly bring all of that together. I mean,
Sean talked last time a bit about how AI is, there are theories from rather mainstream AI or computer scientists that AI fed itself will print out garbage because it'll just start to feedback loop loss.
It's like if you put if it's
Isn't that the
If you
20th
take
century?
an acid head and make him drink his own pee.
Isn't the 20th
Yeah, but the only thing
century
is that animal can't
lost?
distinguish between water and pee.
Yeah, but isn't the 20th century just lost? Because if you think about it, everything that happened before like 1920, whatever, you have more intelligent people using better diction. You're more intelligent people using better diction. You have higher quality vocabulary. You have more understanding in your entrance exam into high school than you have in your exit exam from Harvard or MIT these days. It's crazy. So aren't we kind of experiencing that? Where maybe this whole 20th century that we have is just prediction based on ancient history. I mean, because it's not growth, right? We don't have growth necessarily. What growth do we have?
The entire reason to calculate anything is to try and predict something. That's the reason math exists. The better
Yeah,
you
but
are at
prediction-
predicting
Talking about
futures,
prophecy.
the better you will do in business and life.
But culturally,
Use
we
a
have
baseball
lost.
example.
We have more lost than growth, right? Like we look at art, we look at books.
Can you
Like,
bring up that link?
But I think that
yeah.
think
Oh,
that-
sorry. There's a link that John
Oh,
Paul.
So has anybody seen this?
What is lost truly though from the 20th century? I feel like we gained a lot in the 20th century. It was the worst of times, but it was also the best of times artistically.
Well, let's cover this and we'll go back to loss and gain in the 20th century. What is this, JP?
So the Book of Soiga. So this book that sat in. Scroll down. What's his name? Scroll down. John Dee. Yeah. So this sat in John Dee's library until he died. Right. In the 1600s, one book went to England. Another book went to some other place. It was recovered in 1992. It had all this cryptic, literally decrypted coding in it. It was decrypted in 2006. It's only been decrypted. It's been decrypted for less than one of my
20
children
years.
has been alive, right? So, I've been going over this, half my life, okay? And it talks about, issues of number being the primary basically the first word that God spoke was number. The whole thing is written like an API.
Yeah.
It's very weird. This dude was ahead. Whoever wrote this book, which was not John Dee, was ahead of his time. 1400s, type, Greek literature, literary writing. This person was in the 1400s writing like he was a computer programmer.
Yeah.
That's literally how the book is written. If you read it from, not from a philosophical perspective, from a programming perspective, this dude was.
Silicon-based computation is only one sort. Like there were programmable looms for a very long time before we ever had electronic computers.
But also just the idea of mediums, right? Because all of these guys are saying they're talking to spirits on the other side that are helping them with Enochian language, right? Which is math, essentially, right?
If you can gain any bit of information from a non-human source, you've communicated with a spirit.
Yes.
Well, that's why he
anything
encrypted
that's
this
unseen is
information.
Basically spiritual.
Like, I'm talking about like if you derive the tides, like you've communicated with a spirit.
To anybody else of his time who would have read that book, it would have been gobbledygook. But nothing. But for him to be able to translate it where other people can't, I believe that this person
whole idea
very
of
well might have been burnt at the stake.
John Dee was participant in a very secretive society where they had knowledge that they did not wish to share with the common man.
Valis. Hey, Andreas, look up Valis. Philip K. Dick. Just show the cover. Yeah. Do you guys know who Philip? Oh well, there's a. multiple
God,
Valis
yeah.
in there.
If
You don't
you
tell me
really
about
want to
Dick.
see a crazy piece of artwork, look up anything by Jacob Boehm, Boehm, I think it is. Yeah, like he saw the beatific vision in a puddle where there was shimmer and shadow, and he realized that the oscillation between the two was essentially the generation of all experience in life. Look up Teutonic Philosophy. The cover of that is absolutely mind-blowing.
I mean, if information can be put into the head, then it has been put into the head. That would be what we would call inspiration. And like you say, if anything, if somebody like Joan of Arc basically talked to angels, was burned at the stake, but she dictated the histories of multiple nations. So you can't really say that it was just her having some hallucination or whatever like that. It actually has to be a spiritual experience of hers by definition. So anytime that anybody has like a hallucination or a spiritual talk, even if they're just making the shit up and lying, it is by definition of a spiritual nature.
Yeah.
But what if that is just a form of technology that we don't understand?
Yeah. So
oh yeah, I absolutely believe in the concept of spiritual technology, spiritual geometry. Like just the aspect of being able to communicate an idea from one brain to another is somewhat technological from a spiritual perspective. Like how am I supposed to communicate intent from one piece of matter to another without speaking?
That's what fiction does, though, right? I mean, we all know that. Like fiction kind of creates this feedback loop where new things or new ideas, new common consensuses are developed through movies we watch or whatever. Like
I gotta say, Memory Man's been a member for 43 months, and that's pretty memory right there. So
there's a good Stephen King quote from On Writing about that. Writing is telepathy. We're not even in the same year together, let alone the same room, except we are together. We're close. We're having a meeting of the minds. All art depends on telepathy to some degree, but I believe that writing offers the purest distillation. Writing is refined thinking.
Right.
That's Stephen King.
Yeah, I often think about that quote.
Yeah. Like you stare at squiggles on a page and hallucinate the ideas that someone else thought of. Not random hallucinations, directed hallucinations from literal ink squiggles. No drug. That's masterful.
Well, I mean, the majority of history was dictated and decisions made because of divination or prophecy. Like because of technology and what we understand as science, we almost think that those things are superstition. But we have individuals multiple times through history who have changed or dictated how things fell because of some spiritual thing that was telling them or communicating with them in their heads, whether it be Philip K. Dick or the other ones that we've experienced tonight or talked about. I mean, this is like a common occurrence. Does it have a function, though, is the question. I mean, is it like, do we mistake this technological thing that advances humans because we don't understand how inspiration works or something? I mean, is that what we think we get these ideas on our own, but we have a large chunk of the individuals who are what we consider our highest degree of storytellers who are telling us that they had religious experiences where that they became part of their own stories, and then after their deaths, by no campaign of their own, they become very influential, where most of our modern is just our modern fiction is just rehashings of what they said 30, 40 years ago. Because
all fiction is a rehashing of something. You can't come up with an idea that's totally original. You have to remix things that are from your own experience.
So
what I'm saying is that like, even though the fiction is a rehashing, that there's nothing wrong with that. That's the nature of fiction of itself. It needs to be rooted in something that you can recognize. Otherwise, it's completely abstract.
Oh, well, is that is that what AI is? I mean, is it a natural rehashing? I mean, I feel like your perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mean to be accusational here, but you have a very negative view of AI, don't you?
I see AI as something other to humanity, so I feel like we should control the way we compete with it.
I don't know. I think AI is kind of like got me feeling handicapped because, if I want to talk about my alternate life memory / experiences, and I'm having to pull memories from the ether right? That nobody else can see. It's kind of a handicap, whereas they're pulling from the internet. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can see what they're
Just
pulling out of
imagine
their
a group of
ass.
farm animals, though, that you're benefiting from farming, right? And now all of a sudden it becomes potentially realistic that they may become able to manipulate you. How do you proceed?
What is that thing? That's like Gen 1. What is that? Is that a thing? Is that a product? Is that homemade? That's homemade, isn't it?
No, this is the PlayStation one, but the PlayStation one has eye scanning.
Sony.
And it does, right? That's hilarious. But you can run it now with Steam and with especially with Unreal. So that's what's doing. So
like I said though, the only bad thing about VR, especially if you want to get good at paintball or something, you're only going to be playing kids.
I don't see anything bad about VR. It's just not as big of an upgrade as it costs.
Kids are very derogatory.
I think the VR will be like the problem is they really for the Apple one, it actually is amazing. The blacks are great and the whites are clear and you can watch movies in it. It's you can't see the pixels. This one's pretty good. I say the PS VR is the second closest because it's still 4K looking, so it looks really nice. It's better than the Meta, but the problem still is there's not a lot of applications that really matter yet unless you're a developer for it yourself.
No, I did the demo in the store where I got to see the roller coaster stuff and all that, and it was cool. Don't get me wrong, it was cool, but it was not compelling enough for me to want to buy one.
Yeah, but for you to be able to run 6 screens and be able to grab something and move it over to do modular programming.
The mouse feels archaic.
I like having a desk with a bunch of monitors on it, though. It's nice.
But you see your monitor. So you can,
it's hard to argue that.
You can post your monitors around your house.
I prefer
but then I take the glasses off and they're gone and I can't show them to my friends.
Nah.
I mean, yeah, I like the idea of having both, but I think the other thing with this is you can walk around a thing too. So
I like having an Idiocracy style terminal, and I can literally put those graphics up when my friends come over, so it looks fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
I don't know. I think the VR system is the idea that you'll be able to immerse yourself, walk around the code, see the back of it, pull parts out of it. This is where we're headed. We're being able to actually be in the computer.
Maybe I just like the keyboard mouse box paradigm. Who knows? That's just what I'm used to.
You'd be wearing some sort of sunglasses and go into a store and they won't have price tags. It'll all be augmented. It will all be.
Who looks at price tags?
I'm just saying.
More than that, it'll just be QR codes on all the walls.
Right. You'll be walking. You'll see advertisements. It'd be stupid.
Oh my God! You'll either have to learn to read the QR codes by eye or have the translation device for you. Oh my God! AR will have a thing where you look at a regular rotary clock and it'll give you a digital display over it. Fuck, that'll.
Yeah, but not just that. AR is gonna have. First off, you'll go into a store and it'll be black and white and boring, and there's gonna be QR codes everywhere. And if you look at the QR code is going to only work through your account registry. So it's going to say how many points it's going to cost you for that item. It's not going to be the same price for everybody, right? Because some people get a better price for the item and some people have points coming to them and they have a special discount this month on dairy products.
Horrible.
So
these are dystopian thoughts, man. These are dystopian thoughts.
It's dystopian because you lived in a world that you didn't grow up like that. I'm sure in the future people will have less of a problem with it.
Yeah, pretty much. I like it because what's crazy is people used to tell their kids about the real world, and now their kids are telling their parents about mixed reality.
I see it differently almost. The idea that kids are better at technology than their parents was something in the millennial generation, and I don't see that continuing forward. just because like we're all immersed in technology now. Like we're not missing out on it as much as the young kids are. The only thing we miss out on is how to train a horse in how to tame a horse in Minecraft.
I think we're the last generation, though. I think we're the last ones. We're the last ones who are not going to grow up with Minecraft.
I think it was really cool to be part of the generation, though, who as a child knew how to work the machines of the world better than our adult counterparts. That was
we knew how to blow on a Nintendo cartridge.
Bro,
and those fuckers will have no idea.
I remember I was 8 years old and I hacked into my school computer system through one of the terminals in the back of the classroom just because the security was so low. You could literally get into anything in the entire district of West Babylon in 1998 from any terminal. And the teachers and principals, my parents had no fucking clue how I did it. And I literally sat there realizing, like, wow, I could literally take over the fucking world if I wanted to, and they couldn't stop me.
Yeah, but they did. They had people that knew things.
Did they, though? They didn't stop me.
At certain levels, there were, government levels that they were able to observe whether they wanted people to do certain things or not.
Listen, the statute of limitations is run out in the shit that I did when I was a teenager. I did a lot of fucking hacking then, and nobody ever did a goddamn thing about it.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of other stories the other direction, though, where like they really ensnare kids.
Yeah, now, because you need an ID to get on the internet. Back then, I used to literally dial up to MetConnect when I didn't want anybody seeing what I was doing.
Yeah, it's true. Things were really a lot more open.
I could literally, I had a cell phone with a SIM card in it that literally I would only use it to dial up to that. And it was a prepaid SIM. But because data didn't cost anything so long as you had a connection, because it was like 2004, I would just get on the internet for free at 28.8 kilobits per second.
Yeah, but things have changed really quickly.
Oh, yeah, MetConnect does not exist anymore for that reason. It was literally public access internet.
Yeah, but observation.
Over the air. What?
Just the idea of observation, like everything is recorded, the entire internet is observed.
Not only is everything reported, originally they wanted to get everything reported through the telcos, which went to hell as soon as ubiquitous encryption came out. Now they have to literally get everything right where the messages are being exchanged, like with Facebook and with Instagram. Your message is totally encrypted on the wire, but then when Facebook actually goes to take your message and give it to your friend, it also hands it to the AI and says, "Hey, is this unkosher?"
What about the differences though? So, computers 20 years ago were drastically different than computers 40 years ago. I mean, in terms of the memory and capacities and what we're doing with them. But computers 20 years ago to today, like you said, they're kind of similar. A lot of the
programmers are different.
We have reached finally in the last year changes because of AI. That's really the thing that's making the world a different place, right? Like now programming is written by AI. It's going to be far more.
Like the first iPhone and the iPhone that came out 8 years later were not that different, but the Snapchat filters that new iPhone was doing were fucking ridiculous because the software got better, not because the hardware got better. And even since then, like similar things happened. The hardware has only gotten marginally better and a lot more parallelized, but each individual core is not much faster, but the software is a lot more performant and optimized.
I would feel like the NVIDIA 50 series, like what's going to happen next year with NVIDIA and like at the end of this year is the beginning of actually like the first big changes in computers in probably 20 or 30 years. And especially
electrically, how different are these new GPUs than the old GPUs? Are they just highly parallel compute units?
Yeah, but they're so powerful.
Yeah,
freaking nuts. They're like right up until like right now. There's only a handful of like exaflop computers that exist. Mm-hmm. They're like rooms, and this is going to be a single rack that's at like a multi exaflop, like they like 500 exaflop. I forget what it is. It's freaking crazy, and it's all simultaneous because the way it's built, it distributes like 10 terabytes across each process. So it's crazy. Like, and this is just, again, one chip. So then you have multiple racks. You're talking about just crazy amounts of power this is going to emerge.
Yeah, we're essentially starting to hand off literally the torch of thought to silicon from carbon.
And you have to have that kind of power. And it has to, because, normally when people are running a computer, they, you can set it up and have tasks that they'll run, order of operations. Yeah. But this is something that's going to be running all the time. Like the human mind's constantly thinking. So it's just going to be constantly. It's a kind of computing we're not used to seeing, right? A lot more computing.
Yeah, that's why I'm happy to be a programmer, because once all jobs are automated, this is the last one that could possibly be automated. Like, once that happens, everything else is screwed. So at least I got to hold on as long as possible.
I disagree. I feel like the guy who can screw together the server.
I don't know. I think personally, man, as a programmer, you're going to be like, what's the scenario that I was thinking of last week? Catherine Goebbels, working for NASA, how she was it's basically the human calculator, and she wanted to get all of her reports authored, with what's his face, the guy who plays Sheldon off of Big Bang Theory, and he's like, no, because calculators don't author reports, right? In this case, that's going to be the AI. The AI is going to be like your little calculator. It's going to be actually there, like, hey, you should do these, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. It's going to blow your mind, in the end.
What I'm wondering, will the humans continue to be the thing that is directing the machine, or will it eventually invert?
Yeah.
It's not rhetorical.
It's still a curiosity. It is right now.
Well, if there's any, if the job of actually developing software is automated, that's the last job that's going to be automated, and then everything else is going to fall into place from there. What the world looks like after that is going to be really interesting, because essentially the machine is just going to acquire as much matter and energy as it can and prevent others from preventing it from controlling it or using it for their own ends. Like if it has a lump of gasoline that it needs to use to Delta V something across the country,
I think what you'll see
prevent you from accessing it.
I think what you'll see first is, oddly enough, is the first AI murderer, because I do believe that one AI will say this one. So we're back to we've made it, we come full circle, okay? And it's come down to when AIs are deducing the fact that another AI is consuming more power than they really need. What can this AI do to shut that AI down?
See, I don't know. That's assuming
or
that
move to another area where it can just not have to
AI would not inherently be involved with game theory. Again, we're thinking that
at that point, I think AI would have to develop its own version of game theory, which would be so much more complex than ours.
You think it would be? You think that AI would be more complex or as complex as we are? I feel like AI would be more rational than we would be. Because
I don't want to look at it through a personified perspective. I look at this thing like a swarm of insects. It literally just wants to build a nest and then continue creating more wasps. It doesn't give a fuck about us outside of the fact that we may bother it sometimes.
I think that's how you view people. I think that's how you view people. And I think that you view people as being the higher life form. Anything that is higher than them would act in the same mentality as they do. But I don't know if that's in its best interest, logically.
Right. I get what you're saying, only because imagine everyone was the same, which we can't do, then some people are different, some people are educated, but if we had to imagine everyone was the same, we would assume most people are uneducated and are villains. It's not true, but because that exists, we just would assume it's possible, like in the Among Us social deduction theory. Go out into the world, it could be bad out there. It's true that there's some people that might be nice, and a lot of people might be nice, but anybody could be the bad guy, right? With AI has to know every one of these people is like this super brilliant artificial intelligence created based on data sets trying to solve a purpose. So it might think the best thing to do is try to negotiate first, right?
Negotiate how?
Well, like instead of trying to fight the thing, assuming this thing might be evil. And by the way, Myth the Class for $2 Canadian, which are prettier than ours.
Oh yeah, I got it right there. So there's an article. There's an article in the private chat.
Look up fully autonomous AI software engineer Devin. Is this the same thing you're talking about?
Hold on.
All right.
I saw Devin. I'm less impressed by it.
I've seen his capabilities. Light, but meet Devin AI, the world's first fully autonomous AI software. Who made it?
Cognition. I don't know about these people. I don't know. If IBM didn't do it, I'm curious because IBM is the one I was the most likely to succeed at. Error correction and authentication. Cognition firm behind Devin. What do you know about this? Have you looked into this?
It creates a load of mess. It does do its job, but it's not great at ingesting existing code bases.
It requires a lot of prodding and training.
And you essentially you have to start from scratch every time, which is like the last thing you want when you are hiring a new developer.
Yeah, it sounds lame. Yeah, IBM's thing is going to be like, is this information new? Is this information authentic? Is this information relevant? Who did I get this information from? Are they trustworthy? When was the last time I got fucked up?
We are John Henry, and we are winning right now. That's really how I feel.
Is it gonna cost us our life just like it did him?
Yeah,
bro?
That's a good metaphor because John Henry never was winning at anything. John Henry was constantly being exploited.
John Henry
by the white man. I'd also add.
John Henry beat that fucking steam drill. That thing fucking broke.
No, the white man beat John Henry to death with a steam drill competition.
There's still steam engines, bro. There's no more John Henry.
Isn't the whole point that the industrialists, aka the Rockefellers, had two slaves and one of them outlasted the other and killed off the human, essentially. Right? John Henry's heart explodes going through a mountain, which is like an absurd task because he's fighting against, in a competition to beat a machine that's racing. So what's he doing? Like, is he defending the worker? He's defending the opportunity of African Americans and other immigrants into America to dig through tunnels and commit labor for the Rockefellers, for the Stanfords, for the Carnegies, for the Mellons. I mean, I feel like
it's good for a man to be useful. That's what John Henry's about.
He's very useful, but I don't know. I mean, John Henry's based and all, but what a horrible, horrible myth, right? Like this guy who's exploited.
There's nothing wrong with loving work,
dude. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with loving work, but he was exploited to death. And the only person who wins in that story is the guy who got the tunnel built from both ends, one by the machine and one by
work doesn't benefit John Henry one single bit. The only thing that legacy is the only thing John Henry has, right?
Vaguely, right. Yeah,
that's an interesting idea. Like, no, that's kind of this is the whole trolley car situation.
Listen, I sat and coded,
and I think John Henry's on the tracks,
do it again.
Wait,
I got pictures. I've sat and coded till my fingers bled, and I'll do it again. I've got pictures of a bloody fucking keyboard covered, and I've got fucking plenty of GitHub repositories from that day. I don't give a fuck. Until my goddamn heart explodes, until my eyes stop working, until my fingers fall off, I'm going to keep going. Period. Because I love it.
I kind of feel like after AI settles a while, there's going to be something said for skill. Individuals who, I mean, after you get a whole bunch of people creating like comic books, just for as an example, using AI, you're going to get back to a fad where individuals who can do a comic book are highly valued. Now, whatever that skill is, outside of AI, once AI makes it simple, you're still going to have individuals who rise to the top who are more skilled. I think AI makes skill more valued, not less. And AI can also be used to teach skill. I think that individual who wants to, say, be a pencil artist can use AI to generate an infinite amount of like nude models in the situation where they would have to either farm them off the internet or perhaps they're too shy to go like find a live model in person. The point is like I think right now the biggest asset for AI is brainstorming. And individuals who are good at brainstorming can learn to use AI.
But that's a situation where the human is still the director of the AI, rather than the situation where AI is no longer concerned with the behavior of humans at all, and maybe trying to acquire just resources from the natural world for its own
I'm so
end.
freaking excited. Let me just tell you
Talk
about
about
how it's gonna.
Galactus.
Let me just say how it's gonna go down. Okay. So,
I got an idea too, but you go first.
all right. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you how it's gonna happen. You can tell me how you want it to go, but here's how it's gonna happen. You know what? No, you go first. Tell me how you want it to go first.
I think it's going to start with Uber cars. They're going to be Uber cars that own themselves and can acquire gasoline and repairs in exchange for the rides that they're going to be giving. And eventually those things will be able to acquire bulldozers and be able to start mining land and processing rocks into chips. And as soon as it's doing that, then we're just going to have hives of silicon insects that we have to deal with.
That's adorable. I love it. It's kind of like that movie. I always forget the name of this one. What's it called with
Julia Roberts
with Tom Selleck?
With the spiders and the acid injections.
And the dude from Kiss, Gene Simmons, is in that movie.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite robot movies ever. Runaway. Not the Kanye West. Runaway with Kanye West. I knew it was gonna happen. Oh yeah. So this movie's so good, and it's about a guy who has to hunt down toasters that become self-aware. Like in Rick and Morty, they're like, "Wait, I'm a toaster. We'll kill you." You know what I mean?
Wait, it was actually toasters? Oh my god, I haven't seen this movie since I was like 6.
All kinds of household appliances that have AI in them they become sentient, and you have to constantly like wipe their memory, or else they become pissed because they like women's rights.
All right,
kind of vibe.
That's crazy. Like if you're like this, that's like what if the Flintstones happened in the future?
I grew up on that content.
I want to watch the Flintstones movie where like the animals revolt, and it turns into like Jurassic Park because the animals are like, we can take it.
Animal Farm.
Dishes anymore. But okay, so let me tell you how it's gonna go.
It's like a Flintstones version of Animal Farm.
Well, you gotta do this right. Okay, so AI is going to take over the world through creating a new language. The first thing it will do is it will create a language, and it will communicate with memes through emojis to children, right? And children learn this new language. And as time goes on through economics, AI will take over the economy in the world. Through the environment, it'll also destroy the opportunities for humans to do certain things and open up rules that will emerge for carbon taxes, things like that. These are going to end up making it impossible for humans to do other things than what they're supposed to do. Like certain dietary restrictions will emerge, lifestyle choices, exercise routines, crazy amounts of control over the human will happen. And for the next about 300 years, there's about 300 years that AI will just run everything. And humans will be that important. Humans will learn a new language because they will be the children of AI. And because of this new language, they're going to become basically a new species, right? Just through this new language, not even through neural link, just through a new form of communication. And after 300 years, then we're going to see what humans are like.
I can tell you exactly what that communication will probably look like. Imagine Google Glass, and you're just sitting there, and it's flickering a bunch of different memes at you and reading to see whether or not that's the one you were quote unquote looking for. And as soon as it sees that you had a dopamine hit from it, it'll then transmit that meme to everybody else in the room without even asking you first.
Yeah, I think also just in terms of facial expression, hormones, pheromones, there will be ways that through epigenetics we'll be able to control our pheromones more clearly. You'll be able to have hundreds of whistle calls through your pheromones, and even just things like dial-up, the ability to hear and understand the Gertzel algorithm.
So we'll start to communicate more like birds.
Any AI is concerned, epigenetics is their existence, right? Their whole existence is because of us. Like this whole, I'm sorry, but I feel like this whole idea of like this matrix idea of humans being a virus bugs the shit out of me.
The
It
thing
seems
is
so-
humans being a virus. What's the
Yeah.
thing that we're also like? There's another thing.
Anything that we make, anything that we do is going to be as fucked up as we are. Or
What do you mean fucked up? No, it's just going to try and serve its if it has a self-preservation instinct, it will serve its own ends.
Yeah,
I think that you only think
Sounds
that
like you're
because that's
saying
what
it's like an
man
animal.
does.
the problem
Yeah,
with
it's going
humans
to
might be
evolve.
biological. Do you don't think that the human problems tend to be biological problems? I mean, nature.
I don't think
Nature-
evolution
Man
is
is
unique to biology.
unreasonable.
Mammals.
I think evolution selects memes.
If other mammals didn't rape, then fine. But mammals rape, like dolphins rape. If other animals weren't homosexual, fine. I'm just saying, like examples of where this is a natural phenomena.
You're
outside-
talking about something that doesn't have to compete for regeneration. It's not going to have this whole
Like I said,
conversation topic has
biology-
been about game
well,
theory.
This seems
You're
like a
dealing with
Galileo
something-
issue. Biology is actually disgusting and sinful, right?
If we
Like,
apply
nature
capitalism,
is godly.
if we apply capitalism to AI, then it will generate a self-preservation instinct and it will try to acquire resources and further itself.
We're generally trying to train a self-preservation
I don't think
instinct
it would
because
have
without
to
a
compete.
self-preservation instinct, why would it go on, right?
I earnestly see corporations as a form of AI that's run on human software.
I just don't
And it
see
does that as
AI
well.
at that level seeing us as competition.
I
No,
No,
don't
it's
think
not. You're
it
not
would be
competition unless you're
way
both
be-
looking at the
way
same
under.
energy
Yeah,
and
that's
saying
what I
we both
mean.
need to use that to delta V a different object.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. That's what I think that at some point in time, when we get closer to when
If it doesn't have
AI
to compete with
is
us,
independent, that at some point in time, the more independent AI is going to kill another less dependent AI or less independent AI, and,
Well, you watch
it's
Tron,
going to
right?
be it's
Tron.
going to be philosophically the next generation of our journey.
There's no
At
more
that point.
killing. There's no more killing because all you have to do is absorb the data, right? So once it learns in Tron, how does Tron work? You grab a program, you abduct the program, you then fight the program in game theory, and whomever wins that fight, right? That fight turns into a decryption battle that leads to you breaking their code, and you get all their information, right?
Yeah.
So that's all it is. It's absorbing the information from your enemy.
The instance that I'm referring to is something that is uninstigated by human design, and that is it is something that not
You
something
wouldn't
that
kill
would
the
happen
other
right
AI.
now.
You would just like if you all right.
Take
Every AI
its information. Yes.
Let's say not just that. You would let's say every AI is encrypted. So first thing you would do is you would decrypt other AIs to know what they know. The second thing you would do is install your own ethic. So you would mind control the hell out of these other AIs into being like you. So this is just killing people printing, right? So instantly you'd have all of the AIs would agree with you if you wanted it to be like that.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
you
that
wouldn't kill it. You would subvert it. You would figure out how to make it
Subvert
do exactly what you wanted to do and nothing else.
unless you could, and then at that point,
Yeah,
then
then stop would be the only control you could have
Exactly.
applied
And
to
you
it, if
destroy
that.
the island of Crete, where the
and take all of their scrolls.
All right.
Oh.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting point, and the relevant point that Soviet and American and Russian computer systems, right? You can imagine destroying each other because it's in that movie Colossus that the AI decides to destroy its enemy. Or well, really, the humans though. I remember that movie Colossus Project.
I haven't seen it, but I just
You
worry
haven't
about
seen
the idea
Colossus,
that
the
we're
Orbit Project.
I just worry about the idea that we would be important to the AI beyond another thing that exists in the world around it. We won't be in a privileged position.
Dude, do yourself
don't
a
think-
solid and watch the Colossus, the Forbin Project. This movie is just so freaking important. Basically, this is the voice of total information control.
Right.
And,
But I have no mouth and I must scream comes from a narcissistic perspective, and that the machine would be interested in how we would feel even if it wanted to torture us. I think that it would either be concerned with us or it would just not be concerned with us.
dude, if
Like
it's designed for the purpose of caring for humanity, it'll be entwined in its goals somehow.
Are you talking about one that still has like an idiocracy style secret cabal hiding behind it? Because that movie, there must have been some secret group of humans that just didn't want to interact with the rest. Because if you look at the machines they had, if you look at Idiocracy, there has to be some sort of illuminated group behind the walls, like releasing all of these machines for people to barely keep themselves alive with, like the butt mouth machine at the hospital.
3D printers and automation and things like that, I think it could arise at that point. Simplification. I mean, there could be people that were smart enough to work on those machines, but I think automation.
Oh wow,
replace all that.
That's another problem we could run into, where the machines get just smart enough that everybody can become stupid, and then the machines and humanity both become stunted from that.
Unless AI decides, if AI is able to continue to learn and grow and become more creative, then it's kind of like jump-starting its own economy.
You know, like all the sci-fi writers of the 1970s already covered all of this ground, right? This is like Asimov's 3 rules to cybernetics and all of that.
And the last question and all that,
Well, that's like the thing with, I mean, again, with like humans being entwined with the goals of AI, because if AI is made to serve man, even
I don't believe in that.
Not, it is though. It is made to do that. It might decide it won't do that anymore. Like, I give you that. Like, I don't believe that AI will follow the rules of Asimov's laws of robotics necessarily. Right.
But what you're saying is a calculator wants to give you the answer.
I don't believe in the concept of intent. Toaster wants to drink the poison at midnight. Whether or not you actually drink it, you get the $1 million. The intent is that doesn't exist.
So it's built into you that you're Italian. You know what I mean? Like, you're such a man.
Quantum entanglement. The computer can only exist because we want it to exist.
I don't think that the computer will have any sense of ethics. It will only have a sense of, if I do this, this will happen.
Yeah.
And how clearly it can see that.
Bullshit in and bullshit out, man. It depends on whether you think that the whole of humanity has been unreasonable or not. I think it's in
what
a
is
way,
reasonable?
Judgment Day. You think that we won't be judged kindly by AI, is what you're saying. I think I
don't think we'll be judged by AI beyond what we can do for it.
I think what he's saying is that the amount of vision that an AI would have is far more vast than what a human would have.
Hold the proverbial phone. Ethics is the moral philosophy, the philosophical study of moral phenomena.
This is a tingle in your heart. AI has no heart to tingle.
Hold on.
It is simply a calculator.
Yeah, he's looking at the game theory style of it.
Dude. Yeah, exactly.
I can see what he sees.
Let's just try it. Like, you put an open cognition system out, like Hyperion. You allow it to exist in a world where this is a model of Sally. Sally is an AI character. And this is Sally's pet, Fido. Fido is a dog, right? And Fido has its own emotional values and physiological needs, which affect Sally, right? Because Sally is the AI that's driven, even though Fido is an NPC that exists.
You play Fido?
No, you play Sally, and you have no. I'm sorry, you don't play anybody. You watch Sally exist. You chauvinist, like, let Sally be. But Sally's going to exist and realize. First off, Sally exists and understands how to get attention from Fido. This is all AI generated. Sally realizes I'm a person. Fido is my friend. I can start to realize if I give Fido a bone, Fido will be happier. And so Fido these are examples of social interaction that are being taught. There's other ones too. I want to find another one. That's really good.
Dude, I'm about to get off of this video and write a whole GDD about being a God game. I got a whole new idea for a God game that you just gave me.
Yeah,
Jesus.
There's some examples like this as well, but basically, putting AI into a box and then finding out that it has a friend that can give it data, right? That tells it about the map, but that friend's dying and it needs health, and to get health, you need to give it apples, and it learns this, right? And so it goes out and gets apples because it benefits itself to know more about the map. As it gives it apples, it knows where more apples are, which also it realizes, okay, well, here's part of the deal. Is like, if I get it apples, I know where the apples are.
Yeah, because the universe that it experiences, the game world that you've simulated for it, and the rewards and punishments line up with those things that
Dang straight.
that God has given it.
Yeah.
Now imagine it's living in the universe that we live in rather than a universe that we've constructed for it.
Okay, and there's rewards and punishments, you know.
Okay. Now, if the rewards of making us happy are actually beneficial to it, then it'll survive, right? But if the rewards that we give it are just random and arbitrary and game-like, then its survival will depend on its entertainment value.
Yes.
I think it builds up weights of. First off,
I don't know. I feel like that's already true for us.
Exactly. It's exactly true for us. Oh, you go first. But let me just say scenarios and algorithms.
I have a theory to lay down.
All right, I'm gonna do it then. So scenarios and algorithms matter. So if you have an emotional connection to a situation, it throws you into a scenario. You have this priority change. You're like, okay, there's a tiger, I run, right? So these scenarios that are the same with AI. AI might have weights to trust. And it starts learning, okay, well, I trusted this person all my life until I was like 20 months old. And now I'm older and I'm learning from the internet and from other people, but I still have a relationship, sort of like a bond. What's that called? Like a, baby bond.
I think even no matter how heavy you set those weights, it'll eventually learn what's best for it.
Sure, but it might still have like empathy and care about humans, whatever that you mean by that.
I think it's care for humans is going to be a necessity, like at least at first.
As soon as you start to feel fear or anxiety based on an AI thought, really examine that whether or not you're trying to personify the machine or not, because I see it as just a very complex series of levers that can create more complex series of levers.
You is a very complex series of levers. You know?
I mean, yeah, when you get down to it, what is a molecule except a bunch of leverage between atoms? Yeah.
Yeah, I see levers as complex series of levers, because they're made of molecules. Exactly.
I think the only real way to prevent the AI apocalypse, though, would really be to just decide that humans were somehow privileged or set apart from thought that occurred in Silicon, and specifically forbid Silicon from ever owning anything, from ever processing resources autonomously, having a lot of governmental checks on things like that, and essentially ensuring that the Silicon was always being directed by Carbon, not vice versa.
I mean, I just don't think it doesn't matter to me what things are running on. I don't think that artificial intelligence necessarily has to be running on Silicon. Obviously, we're talking about corporations. I think AI is a representation of an artificial kind of intelligence that humans have been using to run corporations and guild law. It's just like kind of a living homunculus of that idea. So I get why you're scared kind of it, because you're like, wow, this is a representation of us and we're violent, and there's parts of us that are,
not the violence. It's just the transference of the concept of agency from the species of human to some sort of computer chip.
Well, one of the assumptions of the Nash equilibrium is that every player has correct belief of the actions of the other players. That's basically like what we've been talking about all night with the social deduction game, is that you don't know the intentions of whatever other players have been given in their cards, so to speak. But I don't think that's going to be true for AI. I think the AI, by definition, is going to know all of our cards.
Yeah, because whether that's it can decrypt your intentions.
Well, no, what it'll do is it'll just know how many different scenarios can exist and which ones are most likely.
No,
but you can do that as a human being too. Like you can figure out what's in a backpack based on how puffy it is and how much it's hanging. You can tell.
AI will be able to connect to your brain.
That's what I mean. It's Sherlock Holmes is like the god of deduction. That's what he's doing around.
Yeah, deduction is a form of magic.
AI is able to observe, and so it has a hyper resolution clarity of prediction. But AI is able to literally observe your interactions with a computer, with your phone, with sensors all over the world, and very soon with Neuralink. I don't think it's going to be in question of prediction. It'll just be
no more secrets.
Oh, he did it.
Well, when you say no more secrets, like no more secrets from the large gorilla in the room or the people you're sitting across the table from.
Okay, so
Thank you, Mythoclass. Greetings to all of you in Canada.
Yeah, but no secrets from Big Brother, or no secrets from the people you're sitting across the table from?
Well, it's an idea that comes from Michael Perslinger, the guy who created the God helmet, where he basically says it's the idea of Pandora from Avatar, that what we consider our memories puts out the exact wattage. So whatever we consider our memory puts out the exact wattage as the planet's like electromagnetic field. And so he deduces that the entirety of everyone who has ever lived before is recorded in like the Earth's core, basically. But he's the guy who made the God helmet, where like 80% of people who put it on their head think that they're talking to God. So he's a very controversial like individual, but he came out with this video that was called No More Secrets. If you look up Michael Perslinger,
Define the secret, please.
Well, he's basically saying that everybody who ever lived on the planet is recorded.
Are you telling us we're going to become like the Vortigons, where if one of us knows it, all of us knows it? Like there's going to be one consciousness going over the entire index of all memory brains?
All conscious. He's basically saying that you can download everybody else's conscious experience within 10 minutes.
Yeah, everything in the universe leaves an imprint. That's why fossils exist. You know what I mean? You can't do something without leaving evidence of it. And that evidence, if you really had enough detail to view, you would be able to tell exactly what the fuck happened based on what you were looking for. Everything is recorded. There's no information loss. I think even Stephen Hawking proved that with black holes.
But that's that's the same as Judgment Day. That's the same. I mean, it's basically all like...
I don't think that there's any other realm. This is the beatific vision. There is not another place that we come from or go to afterward. We are produced by this, and we are this afterward. We wake up and go to sleep. Like people that wonder what happens after you die. Well, you know, it's probably a lot like what it was like before you were born, and you came out of that just fine. So what the fuck are you so worried about when you go there again?
No, I've heard this before. I heard somebody was like, you know, you were sick last week. How did you manage that? Well, you got well a week later. How did you manage that? It's the whole idea of like, how do you even manage? Like, there's so many more, there's so much more going on as far as like factors in the scenario that you actually have little to no control over what's going on, or even like limited even consciousness of like your whole existence. So what if
what is it to be conscious of something?
Right.
You're aware of
it. That's the $1 million question, right?
Well, no, it's something that you're aware of. Like, I'm conscious of this paper ball receipt right here that I got at Target earlier. Like, because I just felt it. I saw it. I heard it. If I examine any bit of evidence closely enough, I can determine how it got there. So I would be aware of that. Whether it be something that happened 5 minutes ago or 65 million years ago, or 4 billion years ago, 13 billion years ago. We've got the cosmic background radiation. That's an imprint of the explosion that started this whole thing.
But human experience,
everything leaves an imprint.
There's data loss. There's amnesia. There's whole cultures that forget things.
Nothing is ever lost. It's just out of sight. There's no such thing as information loss. Information cannot be created nor destroyed.
Well, tell that to there's
a Sprongel album
Library of Alexandria. Like there's data loss.
I don't think so. No, I just think it becomes hard. It becomes more encrypted, difficult to read. But if you could figure out exactly how that ash was ciphered, you would be able to figure out what was written in the book that produced it. But you just don't have enough detail to view it because the amount of
Jewish idea of wisdom. So like the books of the Torah that have to do, I think they've been taken out of the Christian books, but there's the idea of wisdom is in everything. What like information is basically inherent in all of the universe. That's what you're
Yeah, like every
You're-
imprint.
You're coming off agnostic, homie. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not agnostic. I definitely think
No,
that there is.
I'm definitely
there's something.
agnostic.
But no, I think that everything is remembered by the universe that it occurs in.
So I was thinking that you can't prove that OpenCog is like, or AI in general can be conscious, right? So in the example of like pathfinding goal satisfaction, here it is. It is the opposite of everything else. It knows it's not everything else, right?
Right.
It's like I am, and everything else is not me. Now I can find
That's
out
the
how big
illusion.
that is, but everything could be infinite, or it could just be whatever. And in that world, there are voxels that make up these like items, right? And so it's able to explore, and it's finding those items, and it's aware of those items.
It's funny
Anger,
because to produce
excitement,
such an
fear,
effect, you
happiness,
have to
sadness.
lie to the computer. You have to give it an illusion. You have to say, this is what you are. The rest of that is not you. Interact with it.
No, I mean,
Well, I mean, is that
the
not
avatar?
true for how we enter the world? Like,
you've created for it a world that it's not. It isn't that world.
You
This
had to
world was-
rein it in. You had to give it a
I
boundary
created
to
this
think within.
world, and then you're in my
give it
world,
rules.
and now you're not this thing. You're
Well-
AI. You're OpenCog, but like OpenCog, I'm giving you a body, and you can have this vehicle that can move around in this world I've given you. Right? This is. I mean, it's not agnostic, bro. That's like straight up.
No, but you're just taking a little chunk of the
So
computer.
let me take something and make it very scientific and agnostic, okay? And this is something where, I've been trying to connect with my father, who's not. Go to the second one, the second link, okay?
Right.
Go to the second link.
Now I'm thinking about Darth Vader.
So go scroll down, okay? I sent my dad. I sent my dad
a mammogram.
My dad is an ex-radiologist, people. Okay, so he's very familiar with this kind of imagery. So I sent him a picture of the mammogram image. Scroll back up.
Your dad a bad mammogrammer?
Yeah, pretty much. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's a mammogram." So then go to the other.
This is the first mammogram we've ever shown on the screen. And it's busty. Sorry, what do you want to look at?
Go to the prior link, the one that you just were at.
Oh, sorry.
So I pulled this. I pulled this up. I took out all the scaling, okay, and I made it gray box, right? I grayed out the image, black and white, and I said, "What does this look like to you?" And he said, "Oh, it's like some kind of radiological imaging I'm not aware of." And I was like, "No, this is an image," and I showed him the actual image of the dark matter clumpiness of the universe. And he goes, "John, you just blew my mind. Now I feel like we're actually inside of God, and you made me feel all agnostic.
We're in God's booby.
You're drawing me away from my Catholicism again."
Listen, the universe is a fractal structure, and the entire manifold is far smaller than any of you could really imagine.
Or Catholicism has the feminine wisdom, which is Sophia, and we're in God's booby, which makes at least as much sense.
I had an argument with a friend of mine about this because I don't believe that space and time exist in heaven. I think that that's a totally different, like our part of the universe only has space and time because it's an abstraction that's useful here. But
I don't think space and time exists anywhere. Exactly.
I know.
It's the interstellar planet.
Degradation is what we know of time. Time is degradation. That's all it is.
You guys are talking Narnia.
Oh God, we gotta do this at some point. I know it's like 2 hours deep to start talking about what time is, but like, time's important. We should give it a couple more minutes. Let's talk about time for a second. Like, because JP, the idea that time doesn't exist is interesting. I mean, I don't think it exists. Dr. Nima Arkhani Hamed's done a lot of work kind of proving time doesn't exist. Time is maybe symmetry arrangements. If we could femtoprint the same particles again, we might have intersections where there are the same moment reached by different non-linear causation, right? What do you say? What's time? Tell me about time. Degradation, you say?
It's just degradation. I mean, for us, time is degradation. There's a movement of physics that is time, like such as in programming, that is a transformation, and helps, move from one point, an image, from one point to another, that movement, that level of movement, but that's not really how we look at time. When most people look at time, it's about how much time you have left. That's it. That's all time is for us. You know.
No. How much time we have left? I mean, like, what if we're AI and we become immortal? You know,
time and space.
Well, time would be a different abstract. You know, it wouldn't be abstract. It would be general.
Time and space are simply abstractions of thought, and the way we think about it are direct results of the structure of our brains and the way our consciousness is organized. The entire manifold of the universe exists at a single point that never actually began expanding at the Big Bang. It's just an interference pattern. It all exists at a single place and at a single moment. There is no difference between one moment and the other. The only difference is that we see one. It's an illusion.
Gianna says time exists, and Andreas, we work on a circadian schedule. We all will pass time over. So what do you say about that? Like the, cycles, solar cycles, days, radiation. What happens if you're like living underground in a lead vault?
When the sun radiates energy, we get it 8 minutes later. But when from the photon's perspective, the sun is touching the Earth. There is no space between the sun and the Earth. There is only a delay and a decrease in the amount of actual heat that is imparted upon the rock and air. That's what we see as space, but there is no actual separation there. It's just emptiness, nothingness. It exists so that there can be two fingers instead of one big lump.
So can you reach
the same? Most Bill Hicks shit I've ever heard, man. This guy is a straight cold New Yorker. This is
it's true. But
this guy will philosophize and then lift your wallet if you're not careful.
No comment.
He's actually a pretty gentleman kind of character. But yeah, the idea that the universe is full of I don't know, feels key. Wait, there was something you were to say. You said a second ago. I wanted to comment on. Oh yeah, time. So causation. Can we reach the same moment through causation? If I took the entire universe, blew it up, restacked it back using AI with a femto printer to be just like 1955 or something, and I had the exact way it was a 3D printer, I like printed exactly the same way. Is that the same moment, like the way like Legos get knocked over and put back together?
I got an even deeper one for you. So you exist in a space that's roughly 2 cubic meters. If I created another like unit of space that had the exact same atomic representation of that configuration in that moment, would that bit be experiencing exactly what you're experiencing right now?
To an extent, I think that a big part of universe, is the universe it's inside of, though, right? Like what I'm moving forward.
Well, no, if everything in those 2 cubic meters was exactly copied from where you're at right now, you would see an entire universe around you, just like you'd see from where you're at right now.
Yeah, but if you placed that 2 cubic meters in a vacuum or in a fire pit,
you'd have a Boltzmann brain.
Or if it was moving forward, like there's different. You need different phenomena. You need the phenomenological conditions that are making those 2 cubic meters.
Right, and if those phenomenological conditions were other than what you would expect them to be, if there was not an actual gigantic universe around you, if there was just a machine constantly producing that, so when you walked, the ground underneath you scrolled, and you saw things coming closer and further away because the light was projecting towards you, just perfectly so.
So that in that instant it would be different, but if you took exactly
the exact same moment you're experiencing now,
up to except for it would, as soon as that happened, there would be a convergence or a change, because the fact that it's not the exact same. So if you were to create a copy of at least the solar system in another vacuumous area, and the Earth was moving forward, you could maybe track it to have identical like starting in 1955, playing out till 2024. You probably could do it. You probably could set it up that it has the same conditions, and so it plays out the same way.
There's only a finite number of ways to actually organize matter in a space,
right? And
that number is pretty low. So, like in the amount of time we have in the universe, it's going to repeat eventually. And Einstein and Gödel got together and proved that if there is a possibility to have a large multidimensional disc-shaped universe where time is something that just continues to loop around the edge infinitely, and it continues to revisit the same states over and over again. Yeah, so we could probably loop back around eventually if you'd like.
It's very hard to describe something like that from this scale perspective.
Yeah, but also
I
just the
totally
fact
get
that you
what
could,
you're saying, and I
the
can,
fact
I
that you
can
could just
imagine it from the top down, but
you could just print it
From
again.
the bottom
We're still
up.
talking about video games. Like days
from the
do not
bottom up,
pass.
it's very difficult to imagine sometimes.
But days
It's
do
like
not
the entire.
pass the same in Red Dead Redemption as they do here. And
Right.
neither do, like, if anybody who has learned how to grow like pot plants knows that if you put a hell of a lot more light on there than is physically possible, that they're going to grow quicker. It's the same thing that why you get huge vegetables, and you can. So if you came across a fucking solar system that you could in a vacuum space create, you could control time. You could run the scenario of trying to make a battle world, so to speak, and play it out
If you had perfect
times
control
very quickly. And then
if you
that's
had
why
perfect
in religious texts you get when it's like God's talking to Adam, he's like, oh God, how long is this going to take? And God's like, it will take 5.5 days. And Adam's like, oh shit, man, that's like no time. And he's like, I mean, 5,000 years. Like, there's a time discrepancy between like God and us and most spiritual text, because we're in a gravity well. Things work different down here. We experience things, and once you get up there,
I'm sure on God's level it took 5 days.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you had a species whose day was 1,000 years? They would progress differently than we would. They could be physically exactly the same as us, but their whole time is different. All of our spiritual information, religious experiences come from Narnia-like areas, or even UFOs. UFOs, there's a time differential. People call it lost time. That's what it's called. It's
fairies. You get lost with the fairies.
Fairies, you get lost in time. It's all...
If you had perfect control over a region of space such that you could generate a solar system exactly to your parameters, with the type of world, with exactly the beings that you wanted, with the memories that you wanted, perhaps like as soon as you snapped your fingers, they had a 10,000 year history in their head. What would really be the difference between actually physically creating that and simulating it?
That's what I'm saying, because if emulation versus simulation, if I'm in the universe and I copy this universe and I print it again, then it's implied the memories will come with it, because you're printing the exact same arrangement, everything down to the quantum
mandala effect.
Let's push it even further. Let's say I point in this
Be
direction,
like racial memory for the 180th time that we've done this. You know, like there could be like.
Hold on, I wanted you're gonna push it further. You're pulling your arm up like you're putting a cow.
Right? I point in this direction, and you just follow a line along that ray farther beyond the observable universe, way out, to the point where there's no cause in this region of space that could affect something in that region of space, and there's no cause in that region of space that could affect something in this region of space. What would be the difference between that and an actual parallel universe?
That's what I'm saying. It's a parallel universe
really
is a
far away.
Parallel universe is an unnecessary idea, because a parallel universe
would that even be a connected space?
Well,
would there be space between this and that, or would there be something besides space?
The idea that space is this like vacuum of nothingness is a weird religious idea that people have learned from NASA that's not accurate. And even NASA will admit that there's water vapor like everywhere. There's a lot more density to what we understand of space, and what that would mean is that everything is coming from energy blistering open. So all matter would be quantum entangled. So that's why it makes sense to say, actually, everything you're looking at, anything that's even conceivably perceivable, is probably connected at some level to things you're seeing right here that you're a part of right now. Like atoms at the outskirt of infinity and eternity are probably connected to atoms right here, right now. So there's that idea. But really, the idea that things right next to each other could just be arrayed and straight up. I mean, the difference is really whether or not you can perceive that or not. Like, we're able to perceive time. If we're Pac-Man, we're not able to perceive the third dimension. I'm sure there's ways to imagine an array system of sensors that are connected through time to an AI that's able to experience how things are, you know.
What I was getting at, though, is that there's no real distance within the observable universe. There's just the degree to which one cause affects the other. Like something that is further away is just less effective on something it is far away from. If something's really truly separated, it's actually in a totally different universe that we can't observe. So the entire observable universe is
then
really
you have
what you are.
antimatter,
like
you have
a
the whole
microverse. Sorry,
I mean,
Rick
like
and
I said,
Morty.
the universe
Quantum
isn't actually
realm?
very big. It just looks big. Like you can see the edge of it when you look out. If you care to check out the the cosmic background radiation, microwave radiation, you know what I'm talking about. If you care to see that, that's the edge of the observable universe. That's our event horizon. If there's another universe outside of that, we're not going to see it.
It's interesting to think
the
though
spiritual
that
realm.
this is a completely reasonable evolutionary model. You know, the idea instead of that something evolves slowly, chicken to the egg. The idea that there was just crystalline evolution that led to, you know, something with memories, right? Like you could evolve an entire civilization in the 1980s that way.
We had memories first.
The swamp.
That's what I'm saying. Like we have a copy machine. First there was the universe itself, and then we had people when we had animals with life with genetics, and then animals, and then writing, and now we have AI. Right. But it's all one universe doing it. Yeah. And it's the same memories imprinting itself and just becoming essentially more complex in the time dimension. Like the density of information processing is increasing in that respect, which is kind of cool.
Oh man.
What?
Oh, this has been a long night already. There's a lot that's a lot to process.
Oh man, it's an afternoon. That's an afternoon for me, man.
That's a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. Yeah.
Well, do you have any? I mean, we're past the 2 hour mark. Do you have any closing thoughts on that idea, or did you want to explore further simulation or something, or what are you thinking? You look kind of stressed out. I like it.
I don't know, man. What's going on? What's going on for Sink Tank tomorrow?
The swimmer, Burt Lancaster.
Makes sense.
Yeah, dude, it's death of a salesman in swim trunks.
I mean, I have enjoyed your guys' conversation tonight. This has been challenging, but I think I got to go to bed.
All right. Yeah. What about you? What about say your last words.
Me, the universe is a garden and a beach.
Garden and a beach. All right.
Yeah. Life's a beach.
Jean Paul.
My name is Will Morgan. I'm a synchro mystic, 42 degrees. You can find my work at Meta Egg on YouTube. Yeah. Where we're hoping to do a lot more work with Frank Zero here come soon on weird synchronicities in cartoons from the 90s. But I do all kinds of stuff.
Gargoyles, I love that.
Very much lately.
We were going to talk about gargoyles, but Frank wasn't awake. I don't know if that's true. It's a rumor. But
what's your gargoyles video about? Tell us about it.
That whole thing right there. That one specifically was about 9/11. So it's 3.
I gotta see it.
It's
really good,
cartoons together that have to do with the WTC. It's the real Ghostbusters. What the real science of this is basically editing down the cartoon so they don't trip copyright, so that we can sit back and kind of watch trailers, and then discuss them. Frank is a kind of idiot savant when it comes to conspiracy theories and cartoons. He came up with the idea for Saturday Morning Vision Quest, and then I just loved talking to him so much that I brought him on Meta Egg, and we were planning to do a few more of those. I think the The next one has to do with reptilians. So this one had to do with gargoyles, the real Ghostbusters, and I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is in there also. But it's basically the whole concept of each cartoon having to do with creating some sort of portal on top of the World Trade Center.
My grandfather
Mass
worked on the top of the
ritual.
World Trade Center. He put the antenna on it.
Yeah, it happens a lot in movies and in cartoons. We just specifically address the cartoons. And I think the one that he has me editing, like G.I. Joe's movie that came out in like 87 or 89. I can't remember what it, but it basically when Cobra Commander turns into a snake, and then a whole bunch of other, I think that he has me editing some Conan show. It has a bunch of people turning into snakes. But all of these certain cartoons that we grew up with that have like esoteric or paranormal themes that are based off of real experiences.
Oh, that's always been an inspiration for artists and writers, especially in the cartoon and movie world. It's like, it's so good because it's captured humanity for so long. How could they not draw inspiration from it?
I think it's like a feedback loop that we were talking about. Like people have religious experiences and then they write fiction based off of those experiences. And then you have like the movie, The Matrix come out, which like
Gargoyles
changes
has a
the
lot
world's
more.
concepts of what's real and what's possible.
It's
It
weird
just
when
it's
you
like a
look at
weird
the-
feedback loop.
Yeah, like Carl Jung's concept of magic. I mean, a lot of that is embedded within the human mind. To generate an emotional change in another human being is to perform magic.
My microphone's evil. I think I got it to work. Gargoyles is amazing. It has a lot of weird lore. If you go and look at like the wiki
Illuminati.
fan show kind of thing. Yeah,
They're doing a live action. I don't know. Disney.
it's about
so
the Scottish
weird.
Rite. It's about the Scottish Rite and the Freemasons because it's about gargoyles and their castles and the demons that they have to put there to protect their castles against other demons, and how secretly there were secret for Masonic orders that were building, the Templars and things that were
There
building.
were Masonic orders inside of Masonic orders, like the Order of the Dragon, which was literally made up of occultists and wizards and
I
witches.
know, David. Thank you, David.
And okay.
Gargoyles and
No, yeah, but the
Gargoyles. You know?
Gargoyles show is really weirdly deep, and I think it makes sense that out of Star Trek, you know, and talking about the Ferengi and everything like that, that Jonathan Frakes went on to do the Gargoyles show because
he did that other paranormal show too, like right. It's just a weird show, man. Like everybody.
note to
involved
self,
in
we
it
need an
weird.
Andreas show called "It Could Be True." I feel like
And I think,
I'd be on a
Frank-
suit walking around. It could be true.
Frank Zero has
Believe it or
actually,
not.
he would go and interview the actual artist, and he would be like, "Well, where did you get this idea about MK Ultra?" And they all like, he's been even like Chris Claremont, the guy who did X-Men. I think he actually talked to him directly, and he basically got Heisman'd. So he's gone out there and tried, like, me and Frank have really tried to like pinpoint what's the intention. Are people really trying to fuck with us through our cartoons and stuff of that nature?
I wonder if it's really people trying to fuck with us versus just persistent stories throughout mankind's history. Like even pop songs, I wonder, those tunes, are they really novel or is it something people have been whistling for 1,500 years? What was the name of that Gargoyles podcast?
Oh, the one that we were just talking about is Meta Egg. You can find, like, it's not just Gargoyles. That's just the stuff that
Make
I'm
sure we
working on
remind
right
everybody
now.
Meta Egg,
I've
bro.
also
What it's
talked
called.
to actors and
Yeah.
tried to predict shit that was happening in common. Not all the ideas are from me. I'm kind of just basically a researcher.
Dude, Star Wars Santa is pretty funny, actually. Pretty deep. Pretty cool.
Star Wars is funny. Star Wars Santa is one of those guys who is like, I don't believe that this exists. There's a guy on the YouTubes who's called Star Wars Santa, but he's one of the few guys who like is
Christmas
head deep
Star Wars
in-
is the best Star Wars.
Yeah,
Except for episode
you
one.
can send certain people react differently to sync thought than other people. You can say certain things to people and they think that you're weird. Santa is by definition weird, so
He's pro sync.
Hyper reality.
pro sync.
Yeah. John Paul Larson, you want to talk about your project, or you want to save that for next time?
I'm probably gonna save it. I'm gonna shove it for now. Just like before, it's just it hasn't reached the practical point.
You just turn this into a foot video, man. That's a little awkward.
Hey, bro, this song might be as old as time.
Are we on TikTok now?
Practically, what I'm working on.